Welcome back. So today I'm going to talk about the amygdala. The amygdala is a group of cells in the brain that have a function. The amygdala specifically, because as we've been kind of rolling through this dialogue, is a part of the body that's going to help us with stress. It's going to help us to think better, and it's going to help us problem solve. It's going to help us get ourselves out of situations that maybe we feel stuck in. Now, here's why. The amygdala is inside the head. It's just above the eye and about the temple inside, and you have two of them. Now, amygdala comes from the word almond, so you can imagine it to be a small almond-shaped object. Its job in the brain is to take emotions and turn them into behaviors, actions. Why this is important? We respond to our emotional, I'll use the word triggers, but not everything is a trigger. Some things are impulses. There are positive impulses, positive emotions, and not everything is a bad thing. However, when we feel stuck or isolated, we start to go into cycles of fear. We go into negative downturn thinking. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve. All these negative behaviors, all these negative processes. The amygdala is basically a switch in the brain that takes that information, that emotion, that feeling, and either moves it into the frontal cortex or back into the brainstem. Now, we talked about intuition and how the solar plexus is going to take information and share it with the digestive tract or to the adrenal glands. And it does that in states of fear or panic, survival. The amygdala is not much different in that the frontal cortex is what makes us mammals. It makes us hominids. It makes us human. The size of the human prefrontal cortex, as far as I know, is the largest of the primates, if not the mammals. Maybe dolphins. I don't know. I'd have to research that. But the prefrontal cortex is our creative, our productive, our way of problem solving. I'll use that word again, where we take all this information and all of the input, and we're able to turn it into things that have maybe never happened before. How do I take an event, a cycle, and change the dynamics of that cycle? Change the dynamics of a perception of an event into something positive. That's what we do up here. The brainstem is what is known as the reptile brain. It's primitive. It is flight or fight. It's binary. It's forwards, backwards. It sees authority, and it puts itself in the position. Is it submissive? Is it dominant? For most of us, we're under some authority, and so we look to authority for things, and that happens in our brainstem. Now, that brainstem thinking is hard to break out of if the amygdala is taking all of the emotional data, all the emotional feelings, sensations that are occurring, and especially if, again, going back down to the solar plexus, if we're already producing or moving in the flight or fight, up here, we're not going to get out of our heads. We're not going to get out of those primitive base impulses. And so I suggest the thought that we're not human. We're not acting as humans because humans have the prefrontal cortex. Now, that's not to say that there's not a purpose for it. There's absolutely a purpose for it. The amygdala is there to help us survive. And so in those states of absolute survival, we're going to want to respond with those pure survival instincts. And so it's okay. But unfortunately, if we don't know that we can break out of those cycles, if we don't give ourselves these mental hacks that can move us forward into that creative problem solving, then we stay stuck. And so the amygdala is at least one key to this. Now, it's going to respond from stress. It's going to respond from panic, fear, and those are all observed phenomena. We look at a situation and we tell ourselves this is what this is. In moments of absolute necessity, you are being chased by the saber-toothed tiger, then the amygdala is not processing, can I make friends with the saber-toothed tiger? I wonder what flight is going to be like. Let's think of the wheel. It's not doing that. And so we want to be able to move that switch forward. And there's two ways of doing this. One is self-analysis, self-observation. Notice how you respond to events. Feel it, recognize it, and notice when you're responding negatively. When you're responding negatively, catch yourself and ask yourself, is this response out of absolute survival, or is it just an easy response? And most of the time we're not in those panic life or death situations. And so if we stop ourselves and think, am I responding to something as a reflex? Is this thing stressing me out? Is it traffic? A good example. Or being in line. How do we feel? Are we responding negatively to the people around us? Are we responding positively to the people around us? Again, in the car, it's the same way, except now we're even separate because we're all in our shell, and so we don't make eye contact. We don't recognize each other as people because we see the car instead, and so we trick ourselves into poor decision making. And so noticing that feeling as it rises up and owning it and being able to say, I feel this. I feel this way. Then ask yourself, are there ways that you can rethink the situation? And that will start to stimulate and use the prefrontal cortex. One of the biggest, I like the word stopgap here, is how to stop and create a gap between I feel this and I respond, is to take a deep breath. That pause with I feel, and now maybe I have a new response, or many new responses. That breath is a intention. It stops and says, I am in charge of the responses that I create. This is all brain stuff. I am the one driving. And so you notice the feeling, just like there's something in the road coming at you. Instead of going, ah, and driving into it, you go, oh, there's a thing, and you move out of the way. And so, well, hopefully, that's the idea, is that you take the charge, you drive at that moment. You're not just going down the road in that straight line. Now, that takes practice, to be able to notice that you are the one feeling and that you're not a feeling. One of the ways of doing this is stop using the word I am and then attaching it to a feeling. For instance, I am angry, I am sad, I am depressed. These are feelings. So put the word feel in. I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel even happy. I feel happy is a feeling, because I am any number of possibilities and potentially so far beyond them that that's beyond my words. But we are feeling the sensation. And so we want to throw that word in there. I feel this. And just replace and repair our mental processes. And instead of being the feeling, we feel the feeling. Now, to a lot of people, this is all old information, and that's good. But putting it all together, now we have this ability to recognize, I feel the sensation, and now I know that it's a sensation, and I can pause, and I can rethink how I respond with this part of my brain instead of a reflex. A fun way to move that switch forward is meditative. It's not meditation per se, but it's a visualization. And so you visualize again where the amygdala is. So I'm basically at my temple with my thumb, just above the brow, and it's inside. You can look at maps. I'll put one on here so you've seen it a couple of times, this image of where that is inside of your head, because you can move your mind anywhere inside of your body that you choose. And so we're going to move the mind to that amygdala, to those amygdala, both, one on either side. And we're going to imagine fingers or feathers, and you can do this with your eyes are closed, and that's up to you how you visualize best. Visualize, imagine, see inside of the movies in your mind that you make. Your amygdala. You may begin to imagine that you feel what they feel like inside of your brain. And you can imagine seeing inside of that space as the amygdala gets tickled, caressed gently. Maybe gentle lightning bolts striking the surface of the amygdala, stimulating it, creating sensations inside, connecting the amygdala to the prefrontal lobe, so that it works there more often. It's as though you can rewrite the brain's functions by imagining the impulses moving forward with intention. Moving the mind into those spaces activating and turning on, entering the spaces that maybe you haven't been before. Explore the prefrontal lobe. Imagine it like space opening up in a room or in a home, and you find more and more and more treasures and more spaces and more rooms than you might have known existed. I remember a story in a science fiction book, or fantasy book maybe is the better word for it. Years ago, a man entered a tent, and as he entered the tent, he walked inside, and there was a palatial mansion inside of the tent with lots of rooms and spaces, and lots of room for art on the walls, and crafts that he could probably do with his hands. Producing and again, I'll use the word again, problem solving is where this takes place. We become the creators of reality, the creators of ourselves. This is where humans are going to achieve the things that humans are made to create here on Earth. It's our, I'll use the word organic destiny, because we are made to do this. And so we should learn how to do it. But some things, like breathing, we don't do with intention. And so we don't enter our prefrontal lobe with intention. We don't rarely recognize that that's who and what we are, or that it's there. And so we are reflexive, animal-like beings at the base of what it is that we as a species could be and do. And I look around the world, and that's what I see. That's how that's how it appears as though people are being. And I'm no different sometimes. I can respond poorly. And so it's my intention to be a better person, because maybe that's what life's about, is to take the clay and to mold it into something good, of benefit. And so, yeah, play with yourself in there. Play with your amygdala. Move it forward. Switch the switch. Imagine yourself better. Imagine yourself solving problems. And you probably will. All right. So that's that. Always be beautiful. Be joy. Have a beautiful day. And I will see you next time. All right. Bye.